Welcome to Iconic Leadership, the podcast for female entrepreneurs who know they're here to lead, not just build a business. This show is for women stepping into the Alpha Queen era, where leadership becomes identity, power is embodied, and success is created from the inside out. Here, we explore sovereign leadership, expansion, vision, purpose, business, and the inner work that is required to build an empire that fits the woman you are becoming. Strategy matters, but who you are matters more. I'm Carissa Atkins, and this is Iconic Leadership. Welcome to the new standard of the Alpha Queen power. Welcome back to Iconic Leadership Podcast Show, where we have real conversations about what it actually takes to lead, grow, and step into your next level. And today's episode is a little different, ladies. And honestly, it's really going to be a special one for me because I am sitting down with someone who I not only do life with and, bounce ideas off with, but someone who I deeply respect when it comes to leadership, discipline, and how he shows up in this world. So, I don't typically bring on men onto the Iconic Leadership Show. It's real conversations for real women. But I believe that his perspective on leadership and how he shows up in, his space is a really important conversation to have. Because what I've always appreciated about my relationship with my husband here is that from the very beginning, literally from the beginning of our time together, from the days we met in the gym, our conversations weren't just surface level. We connected on mindset, on growth, on leadership, and what it really means to push yourself to the limit and truly evolve. And while he may have different perspectives on leadership, that's exactly what makes this conversation so stinking powerful. So today we're going to dive into leadership, not the polished version or the textbook version, but what it actually looks like in real life. The pressure, the lessons, the mistakes, the discipline, all of it. So with that, please help me welcome my husband, my amazing, incredible, supportive partner, teammate in life, my ride or die, Will Atkins. Babe, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course, of course. So I'm really excited for us to have this conversation because, like I mentioned, before I brought Will on, you guys, we met in the gym. If you have not heard our story before, we met in the gym and we met into kind of difficult, transitional times in our lives. And through our working out, through our workout sessions together, if you will, we would always talk about leadership. And I'm going to let him introduce himself here a little bit around what he does as a leader, because again, he's not, necessarily an entrepreneur. He doesn't own his own business. But he does help me quite a bit in mine and kind of navigate my challenges. But I believe it's because he is such an amazing leader in his role in space. So, babe, just tell my ladies, my lady listeners, a little bit about what you do for a living, what you've been doing for the last 20 years.
Yes, thank you. So I have been in the United States Air Force for 18 years. So coming up on what would be considered, retirement. And in that time, I have done duties as a firearms instructor, as a as a deployed aircraft ground response element team leader, working within Air Force Special Operations Command. I've performed duties as Chief of Weapons and Tactics, so a key advisor to mission commanders for employment of combat capability. I've worked as a flight sergeant, so a manager of about 40 to 50 personnel, securing an entire Air Force installation for a shift. And then I've worked. What I do now is I ensure compliance and programs for the commander through his unit, and I validate that personnel are ready to execute the base defense mission. So that's in a nutshell what I've done in the past 20 years. And I'm still going strong. I still enjoy doing it.
Yeah. Okay, that sounded really nice. And I want to just break down what that actually is. Like, what are some of those roles? Because, a lot of people don't understand military talk. And when I hear that, I'm like, wow, that sounds impressive. But like, Like just break down some of the roles that you have played, like the type of leadership roles that you actually do, like what normal people would understand. Just to pick one of them.
Yeah, so we'll talk about like flight sergeant. So as a flight sergeant, you're essentially like a mid-level manager of a team. And what I do is ensure that, they're able to go out and accomplish their mission. So if you were to relate it to like a civilian sector type job, it'd be essentially, a manager of somebody of like a security guard, but a manager.
Mhm.
And he manages an entire shift of people. So we'll dumb it down completely to like we'll talk about mall cops. All right. So for mall cops during at night, they still have security, right? Because there's things that need secured. So I would be the leader for those mall cops at night.
Gotcha. Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, that is almost like the leader of my team, right? You guys, when you get to a certain level in business, you start to bring on team, whether it's just one team member or two or three. I've had up to seven at one point, and I'm telling you, right, it's a whole different ball game when you're just going from like coach and just working with clients to now, and you're trying to manage your own life and your own business and all the marketing hats and like all of the things. And then you add on, now I've got to learn how to lead and manage my team so that they are effective with what they do and they're successful and whatnot. So, you guys, that's why I love these conversations is we have different perspectives, but he always like we can always typically tend to relate. I don't know, how you and your partnerships are at home or what you even talk about, but I love, love, love listening to my husband talk about leadership. So, babe, when you think about leadership, what does it truly mean to you? Not the textbook definition, not what John Maxwell would say, maybe, but like, what is it like? What does it truly mean to you, to be a leader? What is that? What's your definition of it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's probably where we differ in opinion quite significantly. Is because I believe that I don't get to decide whether or not I'm a leader, right? That's not something that I can just wake up and I got out of bed. I'm like, whoop, I feel like I'm going to be a leader today. Nope, that's not how it works, right? What I do is what I believe is that the people around you and how effective you are with dealing with them determines whether you are a good leader or a leader at all. I've worked for some pretty awful people. They call themselves leaders, and they did just the opposite, right? So like that's first and foremost is like you don't determine whether you're gonna act like a leader. Leadership is an art and more of like a science of being able to deal with people. And I've had the privilege of leading small teams and large teams um, of defenders when they're cold, wet, tired, and hungry. And I feel like if you are able to motivate and inspire those people to go out and execute missions when they are that's probably a fairly good indicator of whether or not you're effective as a leader. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, how often in our relationship have you ever heard me refer to myself as a leader?
Like it's so rare, you guys. Like that's why it's such a fun conversation. And once you really start to understand who I be and who will be, you'll totally understand. Like it's like two people can be totally opposite, but yet still come together and like see each other's viewpoints and be like, well, and yeah, because like I would look at people. I'm like, oh, they definitely, like you're probably a leader and in your role and whatever. And I always call my husband. I'm like, he is an amazing leader. I've seen him, over the last 8 years lead people, lead his friends, lead conversations that are really critical. And I will always say it, right? I'm always like, oh my God, that was a major leadership move. And he's like, I'm not a leader. Who am I to say I'm a leader? And I think that really comes into his core values. And I know we weren't planning on talking about it, but babe, what are the core? I'm just curious because I do believe leaders have a set of core values that they tend to like stick with, right? And that helps them guide them into the decisions that they make. So I'm just curious, what are your core values that you kind of bring in either both personally or professionally, or do they blend together for you?
Yeah, that's great. Before I joined the Air Force, I didn't really understand core values. I was kind of just like floating through life, like bebopping around. But the Air Force has really like molded me into the, the person I am today, and I'm forever grateful for that because if you can hear in the background, that's freedom.
I don't think we can,
Uh,
but I bet I know what you're saying. Describe
yeah,
it for those who are can't hear it.
I don't know how many are going to take off.
But describe what you're listening to, because we can't hear it.
So we live about 6 minutes away from RAF Lake and Heath. And what you're listening to right now, if you can hear it, is F-15s taking off, full afterburner. And they're probably going into theater, knowing what we have going on right now, without getting too deep into it. But every time I hear that, that's freedom taking off right there. That's air power, and that like there's no better sound. I don't care how long it takes. I love hearing that sound. I don't know what I'm gonna do when I retire and I don't hear it anymore.
You guys will have to live close enough to a base for him to hear those engines go. Oh my goodness. And that's so true, right? Like we can be on the base and we can be at a softball game or somewhere close by. I can be recording a podcast interview. And at one point, I'm like, oh my God, this is so annoying. Like, just stop right now. But I love that you always are like anchored back in and like, this is freedom for you. And it's freedom for us as Americans. And so it's always good to like reframe that because like trust me, those are things that I'm like I'd love to control if like when to quiet this noise down, but I absolutely do love hearing those sounds, whether it's the heavy planes or the fighter planes. It does reminds us of what you're fighting for, babe, too, and all of that. So core values, bringing
Core
us.
values. Yes, thank you. I was like, where were we? So the Air Force. The Air Force instilled in me three very particular core values: integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all I do. Right. And I love those core values. And I try to live my life by those. And my Chris, you can attest to it. It's like I don't even break the speed limit. Like I don't run stop signs, like I wear my seatbelt, like just like the minor things. But if you don't have integrity in every aspect of life, you become, something less than, in my opinion, right? And like I don't ever want to have a subordinate look at me and be like, man, that dude's a dirtbag. Like I just watched him. He preaches one thing, but he goes and does another, right?
Yeah.
So, and then the next one, service before self. Service has been a part of my life ever since, childhood. And I can thank my parents for that. They instilled that in me. So that one wasn't really, a huge adjustment. Always build a life of service before, and that means selfless service, right? That means being a servant leader, to your people and making sure that they are taken care of. You are the last priority on that list, right? Like after you clean your weapon, after you make sure every security set, after you make sure people are fed. One of the key points that I know that I do this one especially well is when I am out standing post and people they know that I am the last one to eat, so they'll bring me my food, right?
Mm.
Because you take care of people, they end up taking care of you. So and then excellence in all you do, right? That one's self-explanatory. If you and my dad instilled this in me, if you're gonna do it right, right? Do it right the first time, and that stuck with me. And then further on, fast forward into my career, I had the opportunity and privilege to go through weapons school, which is a hard accomplishment to even get accepted to go to, and even harder to graduate from. And the weapons school tenets is humble, credible, and approachable. And I always try to ground myself in those three tenets of weapons school. Always extremely humble. A key example of it is I'm not going to sit here and call myself a leader, right? Like that's just like the very like basic like upfront one. But if you've ever had a conversation with me, I always try to remain, you
Mhm.
know, the most have the most humility And then credible, that one goes with excellence, right? Integrity is like you can't be saying one thing and doing another. You need to be doing the right thing all the time. And then approachable, like I know looking at my face, you're probably like, well, I don't want to, have a conversation with that dude. But it's crazy. More often than not, random people just come up and talk to me. So I try to. Those are probably all the core values. It's six. It's a lot, but I try to make I ground myself in those for sure.
For sure. And I just want to point out one thing, like one of the reasons why that I absolutely love you is that you actually stick to those values, like to a fault, right? I've watched you, put everything that you have into something and not get an outcome that would have maybe, deterred me or like took me back or unmotivated me, like if it was my situation. But you always come back to your values, and you're like, no, I'm not doing that because that's not what I stand for. That's amazing quality, because not a lot of people in hardship times will stick to what they believe in to a core like that. And you do. So babe, like, I respect the fuck out of that because not a lot of people do. And you've even had to remind me over the years. You're like, no, babe, this is not, we're not cutting corners here, right? We're doing it right. We're doing it right. And I'm like, you're right. Even though when I don't want to hear it. But I absolutely love that part about you. Like, it's like love hate, because I'm like, but I'm like, okay, but I respect that. So like, I love you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love you too.
And he brings up, like, I'm not gonna like dive deep into it, but he did mention his philosophy around leadership is like leaders eat last, selfless. And I believe that too a little bit, but my perspective around that is, well, if a leader is taking care of himself last, I think a leader needs to take care of themselves first, in a sense, so that they can have the energy and the bandwidth and all of the all of the strength to kind of lead the team, lead the company, lead the life, lead the mission. So it's where we differ a little bit. Like, I understand it, but like, I think to Will's point, if you're a good leader, your men will bring you the food and the plate, and you won't go starving. But I want you to, like, if you're one of those leaders, or if you're in a leadership role and you're like, I want you to ask yourself, would my team make sure that I got fed? Right. And if they wouldn't, then maybe it's time to take a hard look at how you're leading them and how you treat people. And because your people should, my clients always will make sure, Carissa, let's, take a breath, let's slow down, because they know I will go, 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 go. And sometimes they even have to remind me that they're like, no, 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 let's just relax for a minute. And I'm like, you're right, you're right. Because they know I will go down. So for sure. But it's just one of the things that we kind of see different perspectives on, because like, I am very like I want to go first and I want to do all the fun things, and then I can lead my people there. But Will would say, I teach them the ways they do it, and then I kind of eat last, if you will. So I'm curious, what have some have been the most impactful experiences that have shaped your life, babe? As shaped you into the leader that you are, do you think? What are some of the defining moments?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's funny, right? Because you would probably expect a person to say, I had such great, mentors and leaders that I learned great examples of what leadership looked like from. And I'll tell you that there's been a few in, nearly 2 decades, but what I've had the unique privilege is to be led by some pretty terrible ones. And
Mm.
and you almost learn more from those terrible selfish leaders than you do from the good ones, because you actually you learn how to not treat people. And some are you asking like what some of the lessons were?
Yeah, like what were some of the defining moments that kind of shaped you as a leader? I know, again, you're not calling yourself a leader, but like, what were some of the moments that you've gone through that you feel have shaped you into the leader that you are?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, they're terrible ones. There was one that I can remember just like right off the bat where I had to learn boundaries, and it was I was going through my divorce,
Mm.
and I was giving everything I had to the mission, and that, and if you, I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but I was married to the job, right, and
Mm.
not to my wife, and that kind of led to where I was at in that moment, and I had my chief at the time. He pulled me to the side. He didn't. It wasn't professional at all. He actually grabbed me by my collar and he said, "I don't know what you're doing, but I need more from you. You're the number one tech sergeant in this unit, but I need more from you." And in that moment, I broke all military bearing and I looked him back and I said, "If I can't give you any more than I'm already giving you, or it would be my life." And
Right.
in that moment, I realized that the organization, no matter how much you're giving, the organization can come back and say they want more. And I realized in that moment that I cannot give any more than I was giving, and I had to make that known. And in that moment, I learned boundaries.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a defining moment. I'm in. I took that into my relationship with you now, and I mean, you know, it's yeah, that one's pretty big. That one kind of stung a little
And I think we've all
bit.
been in those spots. I mean, I had a client one time, that she actually found her calling and her purpose and her power as a coach. She was almost forced out of it because of a leader who was pretty much like, almost said the same thing. Like, and that's great that you're going, I'm sorry you're going through all this shit at home. And we need you to show up more, right? And that was kind of like the defining moment in her life where she's like, yo, I have given you blood, sweat, and tears for this job, and you want more from me. I don't have more. And I think she even said something like that, like, I don't have anything else to give. And he's like, well, then there's the door, right? And she took that trend, like she took that walk, and she's like, okay, bye then. And she realized very quickly that she was just a number, that she was just an employee, and that she did probably over time. I bet if we interviewed her, she would also say that boundaries are really important because sometimes we get lost in the job and we get sucked into like this is the most important thing right now, and then we forget about all of the other priorities and responsibilities that we have. And but sometimes it just takes that one person to just say something that kind of reminds you, you're like, oh yeah, holy shit, like this is a huge moment for me, and I'm going to either step in one direction or I'm going to step in another. So I think a lot of people can relate to that for sure. For sure. I'm curious, how has that shaped? You said you had to kind of learn the boundaries. You kind of probably had an aha moment there when he said that. You had an aha moment internally. How has that shaped you now as either as a leader or as a husband with me?
Right. So off duty time is off duty time. And I realized, especially getting near the end of my career, is that once I take this uniform off, there's not gonna it's not I'm not gonna have the team at work. I'm not gonna have my work family necessarily anymore. I have my family, right? So if I'm outside of work, unless it is a dire need or responsibility that I know that like as an NCO I have to, answer to, I'm not answering it. Like I'm not doing it, right? And I wouldn't expect that. And before I would probably expect that from, my subordinate NCOs and airmen. But, having gone through that situation, I'm like, yeah, no, F that. I'm not gonna bother them in on their time either, or they're gonna have this same realization, same failures that, I had to endure. I'm not gonna push them to that point where they have to choose between their family time or their family in the mission.
Hmm.
I that was huge for me, is like I learned something about myself, but I also learned how to treat and not treat people in that moment that I'm responsible for.
Yeah, so good. So good. Um, I'm just curious, how would you define boundary? Like when you say set boundaries, what is that? How would you describe that to someone, a boundary?
A boundary is
Mm.
if it can wait until tomorrow, it's gonna wait until tomorrow. Like if I say my workday is from 7:30 to 4:30, if I'm not walking out of the office at 4:30, or if it can wait till tomorrow, there's some things it can't. Like we all have those things. Um, especially like as an NCO when you're responsible for people. But if it's a memo that I didn't get to or something would be considered trivial, like I'm not gonna spend the extra minutes when that time is important to my relationship. And I only learned that through failure, right? So boundary to me is something is if I say I'm going to do it, this rolls back to an integrity thing. My core value is I mean it, right? And rarely ever, like, I mean, especially, sitting at the dinner table with me, my phone is either in the other room or it's face down. I have it near me because I can check on my watch if it's like I need to pick it up now, or if I don't, I'm like, fuck it, right? And that's how it'll stay that I won't check it until the next day. So boundaries to me have become not a semi like fluid thing. It's either this or it's not. And that goes with like my personality as as an individual, as a human being is it's black or white with me. So and I've only learned that through failure.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. Guys, when I met my husband, when we were dating, he would go to sleep with his phones because he has sometimes he has to have another phone, right? Because he's also responsible for a lot of people. And so they have like this like phone that's like emergencies. And I'm like, okay, but like how many emergencies can really go off? And I'm like, wow, almost like every hour there's a problem going on when you're managing hundreds of people. But when I met him, y'all, he would literally sleep with like two phones on his chest or on his belly or right beside him. And I remember thinking like, wow, there is no separation. There is no, like, he is always, Tech Sergeant William Atkins, like he wouldn't even take off his uniform until it was time to like crawl into bed. Like the boundaries were so blurred. So just in a short 5 or 6 years, I've watched him build these boundaries and then honor them, right? Like put the phone in another room. We can go on a vacation and he can silence it, right? So, and that takes work. And I love that because like he recognized that this was something that he was going to have to shift if he didn't want this, our marriage to end up similar, and just recognizing that boundary and saying like, okay, unless it's an absolutely emergency or unless I have that extra phone, like, yo, I gotta have time for the family. I've got to be, Will, I've got to be baby, I've got to be sweetheart, not Tech Sergeant Atkins all the time. And so that's just one example, but like he is consciously choosing to, hold that boundary in place. And I think it's important when we think about boundaries, I would describe it as like a line in the sand, and that line, because people are always going to want to cross it. People are always going to want to like come up and ask you for things and, hey, can you do this for me? And hey, can you do that? And can you watch my kid and watch the dog and like all of the things. And I think when you're very clear on the boundary and like what the clarity has to come first on the boundary line, and then it kind of goes through your filters of values when you think about it. So when someone asks you to do something, I bet inside, babe, you're probably thinking like, does this like your values are almost like your filtration system, and it's like if it passes that, then I will absolutely cross the boundary and like come back and help you and like whatever. But like there's a lot of times where I've been stretched so thin and I'm like, you know what, no, it has to come back to my core value of like this is important to me, this is, I have to stick with my guns here. I don't know how if that's relatable to you or anything like that, but I think that the values are almost like a filtration system to help us uphold the boundary. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like it's similar, right? I know that like work is either can I get to it tomorrow or is it a right now thing? And if it's a right now thing, then I handle it right then in that moment. If it's not, I look at it, I'm like, okay, cool. It's really like again, black or white with me. It's either a right now thing or it's not. So the boundary dictates if it's not, cool, I'm not handling it.
Okay, but like here's the thing. So if a woman, let's just say a woman or man, doesn't really matter. So let's take this out and like if you were sitting around a dinner table and we were listening to a bunch of leaders kind of discuss their, let's just pretend they're all managing people and they all have a team and like all of the things, very similar to what you and I do, but their struggle is like they're constantly getting the text, they're constantly checking their phone, they're constantly having fires to put out. What would you say the solution would be? Like, what would be a helpful solution to those women? Because, women listen to this show. What would be a helpful solution to the women who have that problem that like they
Yeah, that's
constantly allow their team to cross the boundaries?
yeah, that's a great question. And again, this is one of those like apples and oranges things. Is first off, if you're the CEO or entrepreneur, you're the leader. Do you have a filtration system for those people to even bring you the issue? Like if this is the lowest ranking person on the totem pole and they're reaching out to where's the filtration system? Because they don't know what is a handle now and handle later thing. So they're just asking for help, right? It's those people in between, that's your filtration system. So you need to empower your subordinate leaders to filter those things because if you're at the top, you're making a million decisions. You're focused on a million things. I'm sorry that Sally or Jimmy or whoever is having, they busted their thumb. Like, sorry, like I shouldn't have to deal with that tactical level issue as a CEO or manager of a lot of people. You have
Mhm.
subordinate leaders that handle those ouchies, right? So that would be my first question is do you have subordinate leaders?
Mm.
Okay, and then the next thing is if you do have subordinate leaders, but it's the subordinate leaders that keep coming to you with issues, it's a expectation management and intent thing. They don't understand your expectation as a leader, right? You're doing them a disservice by not saying, "Hey, if it reaches this threshold, then that's a wake up call,"
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
or it doesn't reach this threshold. This is the wait tomorrow thing. If they don't understand the difference between those, then you are doing a disservice as a leader with setting expectations and boundaries for the people that you lead. If you
Yeah.
cannot have that conversation, those tough conversations to set expectations, why are you in the role that you're in?
Right. 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 And I mean, that'll drive someone crazy. It's like if you're calling me because you're having a bad day, it's like you need to have your own support system to like figure out your shit before, like, this is not a company problem. This is a you problem. Figure it out, right? Hire a coach, get a mentor, like whoever you need to do. Like, but I'm not going to be your punching bag every time you're having a bad day because you are the leader. I put in control of the situation. Like, that's what I do love about the military. It's like, babe, you can't just go 5 steps high, right? Like there's a chain of command. Like if you have a problem, you have to go to one person. They like there's is that what the filtration system with the team is what you're thinking, like what you're talking about?
Yeah, essentially, right? So there's a chain of command, right? So I have a boss, I have many bosses above me, but I have one direct supervisor, and then they answer to the person that's in charge of all enlisted, right, for the unit. That person that is my boss's boss, if if I went directly to him, I would not only be destroyed by him for not giving my boss a chance to fix the problem, but I would be destroyed by my boss because I didn't give him the opportunity to fix the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your subordinate leaders are paid to be the filtration system.
Mm-hmm.
And if Jimmy or Sally came directly to me, I would tell them the same thing. Hey, did you go and talk to your manager or whatever you call it in the civilian sector? Did you talk to them first? No, then why are you calling me? Like I
Right.
care, I do, but I have a million other things that I got to take care of right now. I don't necessarily like give somebody else the opportunity to deal with your ouchie. Like, or we can talk about it tomorrow when I come in and you see me face to face.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, so yes, chain of command is like huge, and you gotta get that. If I went directly to the chief every time I had a problem, why is that master sergeant getting paid?
Right.
You're
Right.
taking his job away from him by going to somebody. It's extremely frustrating because I see it happen all the time, and
Yeah.
it happens to me, and I'm like, hey, your boss is right there. Why don't you ask him?
Right. Right. Yeah, it's important to have, guys. I don't care if you run a company or you're in the military or like I'll just give you another real quick real life example for all of my ladies listening is like I just ran a really massive event in Nebraska. In fact, I'm still here in Nebraska, right? And this event, right, is only is it was successful because I had a chain of command put into place. Right. So I knew from Jump Street that, if I'm the main speaker, I am going to need to hire the proper team, right? I wanted AV, I wanted this, I wanted all of these people. And then on top of that, we had our event operations gal, right? And my assistant. And then we had the volunteer, manager. So like, I don't want the little volunteers coming to me the day of the event or the day before and saying, "Hey, what am I supposed to be doing in this role?" Like, no, that is the manager of the volunteers' role. And I know I am effective when, I mean, I have to teach the people, right, what the expectation is, what the boundaries are. And I literally went to my operations gal for the day, my assistant, and I gave her like a rule book, like this is what can come to me the day of the event. These are the types of emergencies that I can be bothered with the day of the event. If not, I fully trust you to put out the fire, to manage the thing, to make a decision. And I think that that's important as a leader, is like we have to be willing to say, I can't control it all. This is my zone of genius. This is what I need to focus in on. And this is why I'm putting you in place. And I think it's our job to empower these people to take on that responsibility. And I think if you hire the right people, and then you start to create that culture within them, like you want them to take ownership of their role. You want to hire people who are like, I want to be the best in this role, no matter what it is, because we want to empower them to step up to the plate and make those decisions so that they're not coming to us for those decisions. Would you agree?
Yes, and so conversely, right? Like if you take those opportunities away from your subordinate leaders and you start handling all those minor tasks yourself, that subordinate leader learns two things. One, they learn that they can be a shitbag and still
Hmm.
get paid the same amount of money. And then two, they learn that their opinion doesn't matter, right? So they are the opposite of empowered.
Yeah.
You take their job away from them, so you essentially allow them to be a leech,
Yes.
right? They're leeching money from you because you're paying them.
Energy,
So
drain. I mean, all of it. Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. It's like it disempowers them, and I think it honestly they lose trust in you as a leader. They're like,
They
you
lose trust and
trust
motivation.
me. Yeah, like you can't even trust me to do my own job. Like you just let them bypass me. And
Mhm.
so in my company, there's lots of times where my clients, guys, like I've evolved very quickly to the point where it was like me and my client, right? My client, if they had a problem, they always came to me, always came to me, always came to me. Then I start to put in a team. So then as the leader, I have to say, okay, I have to get in a new habit that says, oh, send the team a support email, send the email, send the email. Like that's on me to eventually train the clients now what to do, because for 2 years it was, yeah, you come to me. And a lot of entrepreneurs are like that because we start as solo entrepreneurs, right? We're wearing all the hats, we're doing all the things, and we are putting out all the fires. And as we start to scale our companies, ladies, we have to understand that like that is the fastest way to burnout and frustration and resentment against the people that we bring on as clients, and we know, love, and trust, and we want to work with. So like there's constant, frustrations and pressure and all of those things to run an effective, and scalable company. But you have to be willing to say, I put you in this space. I give up this control. This is when you can come to me. But other than that, I trust you to do the job, right? I trust you to do the job and get the job done. So I'm curious. I mean, with leadership, with entrepreneurship, it doesn't matter. Put whatever title you want on it. We have to handle a crap ton of pressure. There's so much responsibility at the top. So how do you handle the pressure and the responsibility, babe, when people are depending on you? Like, how do you personally handle that, internalize, and all of the, as a man?
Yeah, that's a good one. Because it's almost my my response is almost counterintuitive because when when there's no stress and there's no uncomfortability and there's no pressure, I actually have more anxiety than when people are relying on me to go out and execute. Like my job for the longest time has been to go out and do the thing, and so my body operates at that tempo. So when nobody is relying on me, I almost have anxiety because I'm like I need to be doing something. I need to be researching. So I mean, like many hours of the day I'm preoccupied and like working towards something, because that's if I'm just sitting there, I have terrible anxiety.
Mm.
So how do I handle pressure is I thrive. I love it, right? I absolutely, if you're uncomfortable, I love that feeling because I know that I'm growing, right?
Hmm.
I know that what I'm doing is working because that's where I need to be. I need to be pushed. I need to feel that pressure. I need to feel that stress because that is helping me refine my leadership abilities and and I'm better able to take care of people that way.
Hmm.
Is so how do I handle it? I try to find it.
Okay. So you actually do really well under pressure. Like, and you guys all know, like, somebody who is like, I don't even know how they're doing it, but they make it look flawless, right? That's Will, right? When I think of Will and all of the responsibility that he has and all the pressure that he carries, I mean, men just carry a lot amount of pressure and responsibility, and so do women. But there's got to be something that you do, right? As a woman, I would say it's like self-care, right? Like as an entrepreneur, I have to be able, because there's pressure and there's expectations and there's responsibility and there's a lot of shit happening at that higher level. So like some things that I would do would be to remind myself, I'm like, Carissa, you need to, for me, it's like my meditation, you know that, or it's my workout, right? Like it's me going to having a spa day with you, once a month or something. But like, how do you handle the pressure? Because like I know you look amazing and you look for pressure and you dive in and you actually you are a better leader under pressure, yes. But like, how do you not bring that pressure and that responsibility home? Like, what do you do so that you don't bring that stress into our marriage?
That's a great question, and this is where you coined the term lazy strong, right? Because when once I take that uniform off, it's compartmentalizing, right? So uniform on, I'm Sergeant Atkins. Uniform off, I'm Will, Babe, or whatever you decide to call me in that moment, right? But it's two different identities, and that's how I've learned to deal with stress and not bring it home is to compartmentalize it. And like I said, lazy strong. My wife says when I do things with the most minimal amount of effort possible to get the task executed. And that's true, right? So when I take the uniform off, if it doesn't matter, it doesn't fucking matter, right? Like if there's no time, if there's not a suspense on it, it'll get done when it gets done because I deal with that every day, day in and day out, many hours of the day. When I'm outside of work, it really like not saying I don't go and do things, especially things that my wife needs me to do. I'm just a little bit more lax about it, right? Because I'm not on a, it's not life or death, right? So
Yeah, another different viewpoint. I respect it, but I'm like, oh my God. I feel like at some point it's gonna blow up because that's how I've learned that lesson is like, Carissa, it cannot get to the point where you blow up and you're mean to everybody. Cause like I can definitely do that. But it's like even like the other day you were like, babe, you probably should go to the gym because you're like, like you're being rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, you're right. I haven't gone to the gym. I haven't gone and done my normal things to kind of relieve some of that pressure. But like I think it's important as women to have a partner. I'm blessed obviously to have Will to like remind me of when because I sometimes can't see the pressure and the responsibility and the stress build up. Like it's important for him to kind of call me when I'm not being nice, when it's important, even though I may not love it, ladies, but like it's important for him
you
to
didn't
call me
even
on my
like
shit.
it.
It's important though, right? And we do that for each other. It's just like, but I guess I'm saying this to say, have that conversation with your partner. Like, how can we support each other with the pressure and the responsibility that we're carrying? Because it's a thing. It's a thing. And if you don't, if you're not willing to call the people that you love out on, maybe they're being rude or mean to you or moody or whatever, right? Like, I think it's important for a partnership to be able to respectfully call out each other when you're like, you need to go have a day, right? You need to go take an hour. You need to do this because you just brought all that shit from upstairs in my office down to the dining room table. And he reminds me of that. It's like, no, you go take 10 minutes and then come back, and relax and detach because I don't compartmentalize very well at all, unlike Will does. So, uh,
If you cannot have that conversation with your significant other as a teammate and as a partner, who can you have that conversation with? Like legitimately, if we're talking, if the audience here is CEOs and leaders, right? If you can't start by being a leader in your own relationship and having accountability for your partner, how are you going to be able to have those conversations with the people that you're tasked to lead, right?
mm,
So, I mean, there's a bigger picture, there's a bigger message here. It's
yeah.
like you have to be able to have those difficult conversations and realize those things within your teams. But it can all start within your relationship first.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, what do you think separates the average leader from an exceptional leader? We love,
Mm,
okay, before you even answer that, just like to pre-frame, guys, we talk about like good, great, extraordinary, right? Like Will and I, we are all in type people, right? I mean, that was one of his core values almost. It's like that's not his word, but like when we say we're going to do it, we fucking do it, right? And we're a little different. And I think that's why, like I always say, your crazy matches my crazy baby, because like when we are all in, it's all in. It's a mindset, it's a shift. But in a world that has started to accept average and mediocre and good leaders, right? There's a big difference between all of those and exceptional leaders. So I'm curious, what do you think separates average leaders from extraordinary leaders?
yeah, that's great. Um, in my experience, the one thing that I think separates, you know, an okay or good leader from an exceptional one is, and it all boils down to one thing is accountability,
Mm,
right? And that's self accountability, self awareness, and accountability, and how you hold your teams accountable.
mm,
If you can't hold yourself accountable and be disciplined and have integrity in the things you do as a person, as a leader, how can you hold your team to that standard and hold them accountable? Right? I
hmm
think accountability is probably my number one that separates, um, good, mediocre from truly exceptional. And I've had the opportunity and the privilege to be led by, a couple. They're now colonels, they held their teams accountable. And they held a standard, and I fucking loved it. It's
hmm
those leaders that are kind of like, yeah, you can do like whatever, and I'm like, nah, you ain't worth anything. Like I don't even want to follow you through the front door. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think accountability is huge, and that kind of separates the okay ones from the good ones.
For sure, for sure. Um, what's coming to mind is I remember a story your leadership was tested a little bit and you stuck to what you believed, and you hold everyone accountable. You're like, I don't care if you're a man, woman, or a child, right? Will holds everyone to the same standard. Like it does not matter. And I remember a situation that he came home with, and he's like, I had to do something, for my team. I don't know if you can share that, babe. But it's like one of his teammates on his team technically, fell asleep on the job. And some leaders would look the other way because they want to be favored and they want to be like not rock the boat and they don't want to get their own team in trouble. But Will kind of his leadership was tested. It's like, no, I've got to do what's right and wrong, and it's integrity and it's accountability. And if I let one or two, of this slip, then all of a sudden I've got everyone doing this mistake, and now I've got a massive problem as a leader. But we're constantly tested to, again, coming back to our core values. It's like as a leader, we're constantly tested to
It
hold
was two
ourselves.
airmen that night.
What?
It was actually two airmen that
Dude.
night on the same post. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But like, like a lot of people turn the other way because they want to be the favorite leader or they want to be liked by everyone. But leadership isn't necessarily about being liked. It's about doing the right thing. And like you said, holding each other accountable, same standard across the board, self-responsive, like for yourself and for others. You cannot lead a team if you cannot lead yourself, in my opinion, and you lead yourself. And I think it all really comes down to discipline. You mentioned that. And you and I both have an insane amount of discipline when it comes to achieving our goals and dreams, right? I love that as well about us, is we are highly focused, highly disciplined. Doesn't matter what anyone else is saying. We're like, fuck it, we're gonna do this because this is important to us, and that's discipline. I see that show up in your life with your health, with just who you be in so many areas. But what role does discipline really play in your leadership style? And then how do you maintain that consistently?
Yeah, so that's great, right? Discipline filters throughout everything that I do, right? I mean, it's a core thing in the military, right? You think military discipline, those go hand in hand. But this discipline goes with integrity and accountability, right? And it all starts from the very first thing you do in the morning, right? I get up at 3:45 every morning. The first thing I do is make the bed, and then I go to the gym, right? All those little wins, all those things, they build on each other. And if you can't, because when you are disciplined, it shows in your health, right? You can't necessarily be like overweight and call, yeah, you can be disciplined in certain aspects, but a healthy body is a true measure of discipline,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And that's the first thing that people see about you when you engage in conversation, when you get up and talk, is they see, oh, this person's healthy, right? That's a measure of discipline. And then you speak thoughtful and you speak slowly, and that builds your credibility, and that's discipline as well, right? So it just continues on with, if you incorporate discipline into every aspect of your life, I think you'd be fairly successful as a leader. I try to incorporate it in most things, other than like chill time with my wife, but that would be kind of weird, I would think, but we're gonna play now. No,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah,
incorporate discipline into most aspects of my life, and I try to be, and it might be different when I'm retired, but it definitely suits to me, to my strengths right now.
for sure. For sure. And I think a lot of people, think they hear the word discipline and then they like want to run for the hills because like they think it's like structure and rigid and it's like yes, and I believe that discipline sets us free, right? It because we are so disciplined, because we get up at the same time, because we do this, because like when you put on your uniform, it is even the discipline on how you wear it, right? The way you wear your hat, the way the folds are, the creases are. It's a level of discipline for yourself.
It's almost disgusting. She's
It,
highlighting like everything. Like, I put my uniform on I put my keys in the same spot every single day. I put my uniform on the same exact way. Like, I put the patches on the same exact order. I'm telling you, when I say most aspects of my life are built on discipline, it is almost disgusting. You could set a clock by the things that I do in a day, because that's the type of discipline that is required of successful leaders. I believe, right? That's my opinion.
Yeah. But but the opposite of that is like it does we do because as leaders we make so many decisions every single day we can get like decision fatigue. So the less decisions that we need to make that are like surface level, like what am I going to wear today? What am I going to eat today? What am I going to work out today? Right? Like all of those extra decisions that we tend to even make before we even put on the uniform or put on the suit and go into work, it makes life easy. So to me discipline is the only way that allows me to get shit done. People all the time are like, wow, how do you do it? How do you make it look so effortless? How do you show up here? How do you do that? I'm like, well, I'm fucking disciplined, you guys. I may not want to get up, but we get up, right? Like I may not want to, to food prep on a Sunday, but like we do it, right? Because it makes the entire week less stressful when I don't have to think about food. So like I'm disciplined enough on a Sunday to take an hour out of our day. Will and I, we food prep every week. And what do we do on every Thursday? We plan out what we're going to food prep and what do we do every Friday? It's very routine, but it also helps us thrive in other areas because we're
The,
not sitting there stressing out about the little bullshit because we're not
yeah,
disciplined there. Yeah.
the discipline. The thing is, right, is that discipline will get you through when
Mm.
motivation can't, right? So if we're talking about feeling like you feel, I feel like I'm gonna get up and go to the gym today. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about how you feel, right? And that's your, because most days you probably won't, especially not at 3:45 in the morning. I guarantee it because I live it every single day. I get up and I'm like, oh man, I really don't feel like doing this today. But nobody cares about how I feel. It's
Right,
about having the discipline and going and getting the thing fucking done,
right.
right? If you have the discipline to go get it done, nobody cares. The motivation that comes and goes.
Hmm.
But your workout every single day at 3:45, that's a constant. That's not a variable.
Yeah.
You already knocked that out, along with making the bed, brushing your teeth, and doing all the things,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, motivation will come and go. Discipline is what gets you through to the end.
100%. Amen. And they're non-negotiables for Will and I, right? So I want to challenge you guys to look at your life and be like, where do I need to, you know, where do I need to create some non-negotiables for myself? Like maybe you don't even know like what is it that you need to be doing every single day, every single week, every single month in order for you to get to your goal, right? If you want to have $100,000 in your bank account at the end of the year, like what do you got to do every month, every week, every day to get there? That's the discipline piece. And then showing up because, yes, we don't feel motivated to go and do our sales activities. We don't want to do a Facebook Live. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. And I want my money at the end of the year. So, like, guess what? I'm going to not tap into the feeling like Will was talking about, and I'm just going to get shit done because it's easy to make excuses. That's why 99% of the world is, when it comes to business is unsuccessful. There's 1% of entrepreneurs who are getting shit done and actually living their best life without all the stress and whatever. And I guarantee if you start studying those entrepreneurs, if you study the top people in the military, right? They are disciplined. They are, routined. They get up, they do the same thing. Success isn't sexy. It's getting up and doing the same thing all the time, every day, and it makes life easy. It makes life easy. So what last two questions is like, what's something you believe about leadership that most people get wrong?
Hmm. Yeah, I think I alluded to it in the beginning. It's like they think that leadership is easy. They think they can just wake up and be like, you know what? I'm a good leader. I feel like I'm going to be a good leader today. It doesn't work like that. Leadership is built just like respect and trust and credibility. Those are all things that tie into being an effective leader. You don't just get to show up someday and be like, "Yeah, I feel like being a leader today." That's not how it works. It is all built, and it's constant. It's you earn that title every day, and it can be gone in a moment with one action, with one sentence. You can throw it all the way, and they won't remember anything good that you had done. They'll remember when you fucked them over,
Hmm.
and that you will forever be a piece of shit leader to them. And that's why I'm. We go back to discipline. It's. I say words mean things. If you're going to be disciplined in all aspects of your life, you better start with the things that are coming out of your mouth because you can throw away that trust, that respect, what that integrity. You can throw it all away with one poorly worded sentence. But
Mm.
yeah, I think that people get it wrong that you just wake up and you decide you want to be a leader and it's that fucking easy because it's not. You earn that title every single day.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, how has our relationship influenced or challenged your leadership growth?
I don't think it's challenged it. I think it's strengthened it for sure. Because I've learned that if and it goes back to the conversation that we had a little bit earlier. It's like if I can't have this conversation, this hard conversation with my wife, right? I definitely can't have these hard conversations with my team. So that accountability piece, right? Being able to hold people accountable in a firm yet tactful manner, especially with my wife, right? That's tiptoeing around a tiger. So you know what I mean? But you learn things about how to deal with people in I learn every day. I learn from you, especially, how you deal with your people. I'm like, yep, that's a very patient and I should probably exercise more patience in how I deal with people. Um, but yeah, I think that our relationship is definitely strengthened.
Hmm.
Um, my ability to manage people effectively because I learned how to deal with people through the conversations that we have.
I agree. I agree. I mean, even just yesterday, I had to call him And I was like, babe, I'm dealing with a situation. And I think that so many people can relate to this. The conversation we had yesterday. I'll just share it and then that's it. We'll end with our rapid fire fun round. But like I texted him because right now, y'all, he's in another country. I am still in the States. And that, gosh, we could have a whole conversation around how we create a power partnership with being a military family, like it's crazy. But I sent him a text and every morning he's like, hey babe, how'd you sleep? And I'm like, actually not great. He's like, oh, why? And I was like, I didn't want to get into it over a text at the time, because I was like, yeah, I just, I woke up, I had a lot of things on my mind, blah, blah, blah. Got up, went to the gym. After the gym, I was like, hey, do you have 10 minutes during your day? I really just need a perspective, right? A perspective shift. Am I in the wrong? Am I in the right? How should I manage this?
It
And
ended up being 30 minutes, by the way.
he knows my 5 minutes turns into 30, y'all. I mean, like, come on. I mean, this is normally a 30-minute podcast show, but it's just so good. And I think this conversation is just so good and so insightful that I'm like, I don't even care. We're not even stopping. We're going. But yeah, so 30 minutes later, right? But either way, I text him. He's like, of course, babe, right? He calls and that's that priority. It's like, do I have a quick second to give her? And he said, yeah. And so I called and I explained the situation because as to Will's point is like I can be very reactive sometimes, and my goal is to always to be proactive, right? I always want to put thought and intention and purpose into the things that I say, especially when it comes to my clients, because as you guys know, it's not that I'm unauthentic, but we do have to act professional in a certain way. And sometimes I'm triggered. Like I'm a human being just like anybody else. I'm not freaking AI. I'm not a robot. And so when something was said, I was like, I don't know how I would manage. Like, I don't know how to respond because I'm just so triggered and wired up by this. And after hearing it, right, like there's a difference. Like the expectation was, hey, I don't need you to sympathize with me right now. I need you to tell me like how to navigate this conversation from a leadership perspective, how to have this conversation, because it's really easy to go to our loved ones and then sympathize with, oh yeah, babe, you're totally in the right. Fuck her, right? Blah blah blah. All these things. It's easy, and that's what a lot of people want is like to be like sympathize with me and like empathy, like all of the things. And I'm like, no, I need a leadership perspective here. How would you handle this situation? I give him the pros and like I give him the blacks and the whites. I give him a little bit of backstory, and he's like, this is how I would approach it. Boom, one, two, three. And then I was having coffee and he was off to his day. And I had that conversation, guys, and it turned out it was great, right? It was great. And so these like you should have people in your life that you can have like, hey, I don't need the husband response. I don't need the best friend response. I need someone's actual leadership perspective on this and how to navigate this stressful situation because it's crazy. So yeah, I would say that like I really do appreciate the way our dynamics work. Because of I like I said in the beginning, I value your leadership and your perspective around it and how you execute. It's amazing, and I am definitely an amazing a better entrepreneur, a better leader because I have you in my corner. That's for sure, honey. Yeah, yeah.
Thank
Uh,
you.
of course. What
I
should you
received that.
say? There it is. Okay. Okay. All right. He said, I received that. It's something that, like, okay. Yeah, I'm not going to that. Okay. Y'all, my favorite part of the end of the show is the rapid fire fun lightning, rounds. So babe, this is just the part of the show where I'm going to ask you a simple question and you're just going to like, whatever comes to mind, you're just going to fire it off. Okay. Uh,
Sure.
okay, awesome. So don't overthink it, just roll. Who is one of your favorite leaders?
John C. Maxwell.
Coffee or an energy drink?
Ooh, that one's hard. Energy drink.
What word would you use to describe your leadership style?
Uh, oh, that one's
Real and raw here. Come on.
yeah. Hard nosed.
Awesome, I agree. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice in 5 words or less, what would it be?
Don't give up.
And if you could give one piece of leadership advice to a woman or a man listening to this show today, what would it be?
Leadership begins with yourself. Hold yourself accountable. Be disciplined.
Oh, boom. All right, all right. Thank you, babe. I appreciate your time. I absolutely actually loved this conversation. I honestly think I should bring you back for another show, maybe in the future if you're down for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Yes. All right, guys. So I'm going to bring him back. Who knows when, but I definitely want to have a conversation around teammate mentality, ultimate power couple. What does this look like? How do we navigate some of our challenging times, as spouses, but also as a military family that moves all around, entrepreneur, like all of the things, right? We go through a very similar situations just like you guys. So I actually think I'm going to bring him back. But yes, today, thank you so much, you guys, for listening. Remember, leadership isn't just about strategy. It's about who you are, how you show up, and how you grow through the pressure and the responsibility that comes with it. So if this episode resonated with you, I want to invite you, into a deeper space. I want to invite you to come into the Alpha Queen Rising community. It's a free space where ambitious women come together and have real conversations, build real connections, grow. You can even tap into the additional trainings that I put in there, because it's a holistic space, right? It's not just professional advice, it's also personal advice. It's how to navigate things, it's how to deal with the inner demons that we all face, the negative, self-talk, as well as how do we actually get shit done in our businesses. So if that sounds like something you'd want, definitely come over to Alpha Queens Rising community. It's not another Facebook group, guys. It's my own community that I've built offline. And you can find that, of course, in the show notes. We also host monthly virtual networking events inside there. So you can kind of come and plug into a room that actually will support you and expand you. And if you're at a point in your life, in your leadership, in your business that you are ready for the next level of business and leadership, I want to invite you to book a 15-minute clarity call with me. We're going to identify what's currently holding you back from your next maybe $100,000. And of course, map out exactly what to do next in order to get there. So if you love today's episode, please make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who is stepping into their leadership right now. And until then, I will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Iconic Leadership. If today's conversation activated something within you, make sure you subscribe and share this podcast with women who are ready to rise up too. Leaving a review helps this movement reach more women stepping into their power. This is Iconic Leadership.